slick propaganda, a blatant threat, and published last year. Hamas gunmen training on motorized paragliders. They also showed meticulous planning for fighting in built-up areas, all an historic failure of Israeli intelligence. Hamas videos of the start of their assaults from Gaza were published within hours of its launch. Once a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, a Sunni movement, won Palestinian elections in 2006 on a platform of social reform and resistance to Israel. Riven by corruption and incompetence, rivals Fatah launched attacks immediately against the movement, which denies the right of Israel to exist at all. In the end, Hamas won control of Gaza. And its grip on the enclave of around 2 million people tightened, as Israel and Egypt largely sealed it off, causing intense humanitarian problems. Hamas responded with waves of rocket attacks against Israel that got worse as the years went by. Israel counterattacked from the air, and with ground assaults that left thousands dead, and Hamas still in charge. But Iran's influence has been key to Hamas's military power.
The Iranians have trained Palestinian engineers in how to establish rocket manufacturing in Gaza. We know that the Iranians have provided certain production equipment which you need for the production of solid propellant rockets to Gaza and to other places as well.
Israel knows it must battle Hamas on its own turf, in urban areas latticed with explosive traps and riddled with secret tunnels. And Hamas will draw on the experience of Iran-backed Hezbollah, which ravaged Israel's armor in 2006. All the while trying to protect the lives of at least 130 hostages that Hamas says they will kill if Israel's attacks continue. Dealing with violent groups backed by Iran, a country that's bent on destroying Israel and building a nuclear weapon that could do just that. Sam Kiley, CNN.
Some perspective now from New York Times foreign affairs columnist Tom Friedman, who's been covering the region and writing about it since the 1980s, whose best-selling account From Beirut to Jerusalem is considered required reading for students in the Middle East. Tom, why do you think this attack happened now? Why did Hamas choose to strike now? Was it divisions within Israel that they sensed, the looming Saudi deal?
I have to believe that the looming Saudi deal was a big factor in this, because we're talking about something that would have been a fundamental geopolitical shift in the region. Saudi Arabia normalizing relations with Israel opens ties up between Israel and really the rest of the Muslim world, possibly Indonesia, Malaysia. It would be a huge strategic shift. But more importantly, Anderson, it also would have had to been done as part of a deal that would have, I think, strengthened the legitimacy of Hamas's arch rival, the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah, because that normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia could only have been done if Israel also made concessions to the Palestinian Authority, giving it greater control over certain areas in the West Bank, administrative control, putting some kind of freeze and settlements down, and basically reviving hopes for a two-state solution. So I think both of those were in play, and at the same time, I think it sensed that Israel was completely distracted by a needless judicial coup inside, and the two came together properly.
The big question, of course, about the level of Iran's involvement. U.S. officials say they haven't seen a smoking gun, but certainly Iran supports Hamas, Islamic Jihad, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, again, no one, I think, has a smoking gun, but at the same time, Iran's overriding interest in not seeing its two arch enemies, Israel and Saudi Arabia, forge an agreement together, I think is really apparent there. Otherwise, the thing is even beyond being barbaric, even more senseless and stupid than it appears. If Hamas just did this on some fling for no apparent reason other than had the resources, it's now visited just tremendous destruction on itself, on Palestinians in Gaza. And maybe lost a strategic number of weapons that it will hopefully never be able to threaten Israel again. So I can only believe it had something to do with that with that Saudi-Israel normalization deal.
The Israeli government's called for a complete siege of Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu spoke today, did not specifically talk about a ground incursion, but certainly that would seem to be in the cards, or certainly a strong possibility. We all know that the difficulties of that, the inherent dangers in that. We know the international outrage that will grow as conditions deteriorate in Gaza and the civilian population suffers. Israel risks a lot by a ground invasion, not just in blood of their people, of their soldiers, but also in actually being able to get what they want. I mean, doesn't it? It can actually go it can actually play into the hands of Iran, can't it?
Well, in these kind of moments, Anderson, I always ask myself, and I'm sure Israel is asking itself, I hope it is, what does my enemy want? And then let's do exactly the opposite. So what do Israel's enemies want right now? Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. They want Israel to occupy Gaza, get enmeshed in a door-to-door, house-to-house fighting there, kill a lot of Palestinian civilians, and completely erode the moral high ground that it has right now, which does have real value. That's what they want. They don't care less about their people. If they did, Hamas would have been governing Gaza in a completely different way. I hope that Israel can achieve its goals of restoring its deterrence, getting its hostages back, but doing it in a way that is not going to play into the hands of Hamas. These are hard calls, I recognize, but you don't want to underplay it, you don't want to overplay it. But I hope Israel does not have to go into Gaza, or if it does, doesn't go far or deep.
Is it possible, though, for Israel to avoid going into Gaza? I mean, if they want to stop Hamas's military capabilities moving forward from being able to do the same kind of attack, what other option is there?
Well, I think that one of the things that Hamas has done, again, which sort of leaves you wondering what they were thinking, among many things, is that they've shown Israel every vulnerability it had in Gaza, and they did that for the purpose of inflicting 700 to 800 civilian and military casualties on Israel. But now where are you, Hamas? How are you better off? How are the Palestinians of Gaza better off? But you've just shown Israel, and blessedly for Israel, that it had all these vulnerabilities. The Israelis will study this. They will close them. Hamas has now fired off a lot of weapons, also shown Israel what new missile technology it had. So I think there's a lot of things that Israel can achieve in the long run that will leave Hamas much more weakened without having to go in and try to reoccupy the place. Because if not, maybe there's only one thing worse than Hamas controlling Gaza, and that's nobody controlling Gaza or Israel having to control Gaza. And so, this problem hasn't been insoluble for so many years for a reason. And, I think this is a time for Israel to do deep thinking about how deep it gets in. I'm sure they are, but I think this is some critical decisions that have to be taken here.
There are, I'm sure, plenty of civilians in Gaza who oppose Hamas, who don't like the Hamas regime, and yet they don't really have anywhere to go. I mean, Israel, the IDF will say go to other areas, but it is so densely packed, it is very difficult for civilians in Gaza.
And that's why, Anderson, some problems are kind of insoluble. Unless Israel wants to completely occupy Gaza and nurture a completely different kind of Palestinian government there, and stay there, probably multiple generations it would take, it's going to have to deal with some form, most likely, of Hamas. I think the point is to put Hamas in a situation where it can never do this kind of attack again, where it's on the defensive in international circles, and is deterred. But I think deterrence is the only outcome here. You're not going to remake Gaza. The notion of completely transforming that situation through military means is just not going to happen.